In this lesson, we will learn how to do HTTP requests using Python. First, you should understand what is an HTTP request. Well, you may be familiar with HTTP from website URLs. HTTP is the main transfer protocol used in the web. When you type an address in your web browser, you're actually sending an HTTP request to a server, which usually will respond with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code for the page you requested. Your browser will then interpret the code and render the web page. But HTTP requests are not used only for getting web pages. We can use it to send and receive data. Let's see the basic flow of an HTTP request. In step 1, the client prepares an HTTP request. The client can be a web browser, a mobile app, a software, or our Python program. Then the request is sent to a web server. The server will get our request and may search for the data on a database. Then the server sends a response back containing some information about the request and also the data we requested. The data could be, for instance, information about a customer, a list of blog posts or pictures, or it could be the search results like we have in Google. Then the client will process the data and display it to the user, like Google shows a list of links with titles and descriptions. If you search for a hashtag on Instagram, it will get the data from a server and display images. So this is basically how HTTP requests work. To make HTTP requests in Python, we will need the requests module. So I'll just go to the terminal and I'm going to write pip install requests. Now let's go back to the idle and import requests. I'm not going to rename it this time. Now I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to assign requests dot get. Let's make the request to Google's web page. So https://www.google.com, which is exactly what our browser does when we go to Google's web page. So we just sent a request using the get method. The main methods for HTTP requests are get and post. I won't go into details here, but you can read more about the get and post methods if you would like. So now that we sent our request, let's check the status code. So r.status code. So here it says 200. You can also search on Google for HTTP status codes if you want to know them all. But the most important ones are 200 for OK, which means the request has been sent and received successfully. 403 for forbidden, which means, for example, that you didn't send authentication correctly, or maybe it was missing an API key. Since Google's front page is public, we don't have to send authentication. We also have 404, which is the widely known status code for not found. So as we can see, our request was successful. Now we can print the headers of the request. This will show some information about the request. So r.headers, and this is going to bring us some information about the request. We can get specific information if we want by typing it like this. Now let's go to the most important part, which is the actual response to our request. So the data we just requested. So let's type r.text. We have 102 lines on the response, so it is not showing. You can just double click this message and then it is going to show. What you are seeing here is all the HTML code for Google's front page, which is exactly what the browser gets when it sends an HTTP request to google.com. Pretty cool, right? Of course, this is a bit hard for us to read, but our browser can interpret the code and render the web page beautifully. So now, what do we do with the HTML code from Google? Actually, this is not going to be very useful for us, but now that we know the basics of HTTP requests, we're going to get some data from APIs through the web, and things will start to get interesting. That's what we're gonna do in the next video. I'll see you then.